Coming up on the St. Paul Forum, I'm talking with Rick Cardenas and Kelly Lee of Advocating Change Together. That's coming up next on the St. Paul Forum. Hello, I'm Catherine Reed Day, and joining me today are Rick Cardenas and Kelly Lee of Advocating Change Together. Welcome. Thanks for joining me. Rick, tell me a little bit. You are co-director of Advocating Change Together, but you didn't start out doing that. So are you from St. Paul?
Oh yes, I was born and raised in St. Paul. Miller Hospital used to be up there at Rice where the History Center is.
Really?
Right now.
Okay. So you grew up here, and how did you get involved in Advocating Change Together?
Well, actually, I was working at Senator Wellstone's office in St. Paul, and I was doing a lot of working through the bureaucracy, which was a lot of fun for a while, but then the opportunity came to work at Advocating Change Together and doing some community organizing around one of the projects that we have at ACT. That gave me the opportunity to do what I really love to do, and it's more community organizing versus beating up on the bureaucracy. That's blocking.
So you like the action. So tell us just briefly, and I know both of you can speak to this, but give us a snapshot of what is the mission and purpose of Advocating Change Together.
Yeah, and Advocating Change Together is a nonprofit which was established way back in 1979, actually, around a couple of issues. The unionization of sheltered workshop in Minneapolis was one of the issues, and also Rule 40, which is going through a process right now of changing.
I don't have a clue what that means, so you're going to have to give me the straight version, because I don't know what that is.
Before Rule 40, 1981-82, individuals who lived in group homes or larger institutions but smaller than Faribault or Wilmer or those great big monstrosities. There was a thing called Aversive therapies, which if a person somehow misbehaved or what someone deemed as misbehavior, they could be put into a closet, denied food, bathroom privileges.
Oh my,
and
so really horrendous conditions. And this is for people who have some form of, they're in the institution for what reason?
For whatever reason. It could be some form of disability, but mostly intellectual and developmental disabilities.
Developmental disabilities,
yes.
okay.
And so
I just want to make sure that everyone has the context for what you're talking about, so that they can kind of picture what you're talking about.
Yes, and so a couple of members of Advocating Change Together had that occur to them, and but they happen to know some politicians, and ACT worked on that legislation way back in the early 80s, and so that was the creation and the establishment of ACT, and ACT has been involved in political actions ever since, and the whole theory is that individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities should be able to make some informed choices about their own life. So it's the empowerment of individuals who had no power for so many years.
Wonderful. That's great. That's very helpful. So Kelly, you grew up here. I heard that you said you went to Central High School and graduated with honors. How did you get involved with ACT, and what's your role with the organization?
Well, how I got involved with ACT is, well, I used to work at this one place. I started in 1983. It was Minnesota Diversified Industry. At short, I call it MDI.
Okay.
There was certain people brought me to ACT with them disabilities. It brought me to ACT and all that stuff. But this is the scoop. I was on an Aversive committee, and I got involved with that, and we was talking about some stuff what we want in Minnesota, the rest of our industry, because it needs to get cleaned up and everything. So, and then they took me to when we was doing a project on that, they say to go to Treasure Island. So, and then what clicks over is that's when I was working on the night shift at Minnesota Industry, because it was good business at first, and then they cut down on work and stuff. So anyways, they had me switch on day shift. And I just kept on going back and forth to maybe to work into it and back home. And I was very quiet when they had their meeting. Now, over the years, when I got used to it, then I opened my mouth.
You started to become an advocate then?
Oh yeah. First I was on treasurer. That went pretty good. And we was trying to find somebody else to do treasurer, because I've been treasurer for a while there and everything. So they want to switch off now. But anyways, it just kind of got a little messed up anyway. So, but anyways, I said, okay, I'm gonna try for president.
Great.
I think I'll start that again.
Good.
So I tried it, had my few little words and all that, and told my speech. I said, yes, I would love to do that.
Great.
So Kelly, Kelly came to us, and she said she was really quiet, but has now, over the past few years at the legislative session, Kelly has gone with us and testified about issues that are really important to persons with intellectual developmental disabilities.
Yeah, and your spirit comes right through.
Really good, really good.
So as part of the program, do you do some training to bring this empowerment forward so that you have those who've been affected feel like they can do what they want to do to make their voice known?
So many times we do little exercises that help people to understand their own power. And we use a process called that Paulo Freire established in Brazil, 50 years ago, popular education, which says that everyone is a learner and everyone is a teacher, and it's part of our method of operation, so that it empowers individuals, and we find it fits beautifully working with persons with disabilities of all sorts, and especially people who are born with an intellectual developmental disability have often been bullied and put down for so many years that they believe that that's them. But we try to show them that they have a lot of information that we need, and information that everyone should hear. So, and Kelly's a great example of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So one part of the story is talk a little bit about a couple of recent successes that you've had in your program, and it sounds like Kelly has been one of those successes, so maybe you can talk about that too. But what have been some, you talked about this Rule 40 that you're working on now, but are there some other things that we might be aware of that you've had some impact?
Well, indeed, one of the projects we have is called Remembering with Dignity. And many people don't know that all of the state institutions that we had around Minnesota, which were usually in rural areas.
Yes.
And there's some great big ones there. And when people were put into the state institutions for many, many years and for different sorts of disabilities, if they passed away, they would be put in a graveyard with no name, no birth date or death date, just a number. So we discovered that 1992, and since then we've had an ongoing project, which is to put the names of individuals who passed away on those markers at those former state institutions. So it's an ongoing project. There are 13,000 of those grave markers in Minnesota, and we've completed approximately half of them.
That's fantastic.
Over
wow.
the years, gaining funds from the legislature. And, so that's one of our successes. And we also have a project called Tools for Change, where over the years in the workshops, the development of those videos that we've created, along with exercises on how to empower individuals. We've boxed them up and videoed them and sold them around the country, and we're in the process of doing more of that and shortening them up so that they can be more quick hits. Seems that these longer half an hour, 20-minute videos are not as compelling right now as a little short 10-minute with exercises. So.
Oh, that's great. And so you're becoming nationally known for that, but these are the kind of tools that can help people who, if some of our viewers may have someone who has, they know someone with a disability, they don't necessarily know what to do. Is the website then a resource for them to find some information, things that can be valuable?
Yeah, sure. We do have a website and selfadvocacy.org.
Selfadvocacy.org
is our website.
Is your primary site?
Yes.
And so the idea is that everyone can have an impact, it sounds like.
Yes.
And so I hear something about you as a creative person as well, and I have a bias for the creative. Do I understand that you used to paint and now you've started drawing again as part of your involvement with advocating change?
Well, like Rick was talking about remembering dignity and stuff, and we did some drawing. We do some drawing. We do some painting. But when we started that, I was kind of a little messy about it. But I got better at it and stuff, and express my feelings and stuff. So anyways, there's this one drawing I did, and I color it in. It's called Blue in the Face, yelling to blue in the face. And that's like a disability wants to go shopping, have a job, or have a life.
Have a life, absolutely.
Because there's a lot of, like me, I could get around. But the other people who's lower than me can't get around and wants to get around. And I did this one trip about, I am this project as human rights with disabilities.
Human rights with disabilities.
Yeah, it's called the human rights. And I did a project on human with disability rights and stuff. I wrote some little notes down and stuff.
Okay.
And I went all the way to Saudi Arabia and tell about me and stuff and human rights.
Wow.
And
That's
stuff.
impressive.
Yeah.
That's impressive. If you're just joining us, I'm talking with Rick Cardenas and Kelly Lee of Advocating Change Together. I want to be sure, that's very impressive that you got to travel so far to talk about the kind of work you're doing. I want to bring it to some current things because we're partway through our show. I want to touch bases on how the LRT is affecting people with disabilities. Is that something you want to touch on?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. Help us understand how people are going to get around. I'm located I have an office right on the light rail and University Avenue, and the services for the blind are right next door to my building. So I'm always seeing people with canes working their way across the avenue, and there's some audio and some special sounds But every once in a while, I think about all the things they have to step around and over. But that's just part of it.
Yeah, for sure. The corridors of opportunity, which is part of what came out of, again, some advocacy through housing and urban development, and also the transit, federal transit project that's putting the LRT in. And within that project, they had some grants for various groups along the corridor to try to do some outreach within their communities, and we happen to get one of those grants, and right now we've been doing some outreach to various community, actually apartment buildings that have a concentration of a lot of individuals with various disabilities. And for example, one of the things that the Corridors for Opportunity did was a walkability survey. And this walkability survey wasn't necessarily focused for persons with disabilities, but that's much of what came out of it for the safety to getting to the stations.
Right. How are we going to actually get to that station, and how do you stay safe when you get there?
It was very, very much so, and it was noted that there were not accessible curbs before getting to the station or getting home. You know, there were ways that you had to create your own path to get home and not go directly. And so that came out of just that walkability survey, the idea that persons with disabilities would have more problems getting to and fro. And even people with intellectual and developmental disabilities would not be able to identify the stations as readily as other folks. And so we've suggested different ways that they could mark the stops, and I don't know if that's moving forward. Another really good example is the main downtown St. Paul station, which is between 5th and 4th Street and Cedar in Minnesota, has no elevator to get up to the Skyway nor down, which means that often in the winter when we have a storm, people are going to be stuck, and the storm, at the hours that the train will run, people won't be able to get into the buildings. Many of the buildings close at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, 5:30 in the afternoon, so you can't even get into a building on the street. And so this elevator that St. Paul doesn't have is really, I find, an essential part of what should provide some safety for not only persons with disability, but anyone who wants to get into the Skyway.
And is that scheduled for, have they said they're going to change that, or is it too late now?
No, it isn't too late. It'll never be too late. It'll never be too late.
It can be added.
However, I haven't seen it written on any piece of paper that it's coming, but I keep getting the word from the Met Council. And I've been working on this for a few years because I've noted that it was not there. But the city also says there will be an elevator, and the Met Council says there will be an elevator, but those are only words, and I haven't seen it.
And that activist in you is still very engaged. So I wanted to ask too about the state of housing related to people with disabilities of various kinds. Is there enough housing for people? Well,
along the corridor, I've been noting that there's numerous available housing units. However, in the macro, everyone says, yes, there should be some accessible housing, and there should be more affordable housing for persons with disabilities, all sorts of disabilities. However, on the macro, everyone is for it. On the micro, when you go and look at what's happening there, it just isn't happening. So I've contacted a number of groups that are looking at the housing issue and tried to make sure that they think about disability at that micro level, so that this house looks like it has the possibility of becoming accessible with low expense or lower expense than another place. So it is also part of the project that we got the grant for, is to look at the housing. And we've been trying to, I mean, it's kind of chicken and egg: housing, jobs, transportation. So which one comes first? And we've bitten off a big chunk and are working on all three of those things. And so we have to gain some focus more on the housing.
And in the jobs outlook, have there been any advantages in any way that the market is so difficult, but at least in Minnesota, it's not as bad. I mean, our unemployment rate is lower here. Are there any specific areas that you've been able to achieve some results on the job front that might be useful for others to think about?
Well, it is actually one of the things we're doing also. There is a grant through Corridors of Opportunity that Ramsey County and other Ramsey County has received to look at and to try to create some awareness of jobs for individuals who live in Frogtown, Cedar Riverside, different neighborhoods. So it's been my goal to point out that individuals with disabilities are also looking for jobs and need jobs. So it's just creating an awareness to the project that there's a component that has to be mentioned, and that's persons with disabilities have to be included in their kind of job creation that they're looking at. So.
And what do you think has had the greatest impact in your work? I mean, you talked about the videos. You've got some illustrations of the kind of things you do. What's been most successful? Is it the kind of giving, like, Kelly going to Saudi Arabia? Is it the testifying? Is it people feeling that they can claim their own voice in this process?
Well, most successful. I don't find most successful as I always see it as a process, and it doesn't, and it comes from popular education, and I think that's where I picked it up. But
so it's not a point in time, and it's not like you put a basket in the hoop and you're done. It's a daily. It's every day. It's an everyday process.
It's every day.
It's every opportunity.
And even when we lose, I consider that a win because someone learned something new. So we never lose because we define what winning is. So at ACT, we define the win, and so a step is a win. So they're all successes, and successes just come from being there and making a choice about your life. And so, well, it's easy for me. Then I don't have to feel frustrated about anything that we don't do.
Keeps you positive, right?
Yeah, really. So
in the face of challenges.
Yeah.
So Kelly, I understand there's another success that we could talk about that is this video you're holding up, Offense Taken.
Yeah, it's about the R word, retard. Well, like I said, I've been bullied mostly in my school. Lifetime called a retard, and I just didn't like that at all.
Yep.
I mean, they just look at me as a retard, call me monkey and all that. And so I did a training on this about that, and it's just, it went pretty good.
So we have a number of testimonies about this. It's a project we created through Self-Advocates Minnesota, which is another one of those projects I didn't mention, but it's the developing and organizing of groups of self-advocates. And Offense Taken came from funding that they provided because that bullying theme was so strong and prevalent among persons with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And so we created this video, which is...
And the purpose of this is to actually give them the power to respond.
Yes,
to
and we have training.
To educate and help others.
Yes, and we have a training question. It stands alone, and it's purchasable at Advocating Change Together.
Oh, okay, so this is something that they, selfadvocacy.org, they can buy this there.
Yeah,
fantastic.
And it's always subject, always coming up.
Good. I understand there's a conference coming up that that you're a part of. Can you talk a little bit about that? And is that something you want people to look at on your website? Some other
Sure. Absolutely.
activities?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We have a big national conference called SABE, right? And it's Self Advocates Becoming Empowered.
Okay.
And Self Advocates Becoming Empowered has a every other year conference, and they awarded it to St. Paul, and well, actually through ACT, and
It'll be here in St. Paul.
and it's going to be at the Crown Plaza,
Oh, fabulous.
over to the River Center.
And that's this fall?
And that's August 30th through.
Oh, really soon.
And we have little cards that we sent out. Don't forget this date, August 3rd through September 2nd, and we call it.
August 30th?
Yeah, August 30th. And we call it. Did I say July?
No.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Sometimes
okay.
I do.
August 30th.
So August 30th through September 2nd, and we call it It's About Fairness because it coincides with the state fair.
Oh, that'll
So
be fun.
it's-
So you'll have lots of people at the fair, and they can come down and be part of this event.
Yes.
And people will be coming from all over the country?
All over the country,
Mm-hmm.
yes, yes. We have a group from New Jersey of individuals who need hospital beds, who need access, and we just got that, like 16 people, and so we got to talk to the Crown Plaza. Hey, we need a few extra beds here.
Some extra hospital beds. That's a lot to think about. So were you helping plan the conference, or was that done by a national group?
No, we are the planners.
You are the planners.
We ACT,
so. Wow.
my co-director, Mary Kay Kennedy, and Kathy Sanders, and then we have someone on loan from DHS, Rhonda DeBow, who are putting everything together and making sure we have a human rights theme to this. It's about fairness.
It's about fairness. And do you expect that, will there be some announcements coming out of the conference, or any particular?
Yes, we actually have the commissioner of the ADD, which is Administration on Developmental Disabilities, Sharon Lewis, will be here to make a big pronouncement. We don't know what it is, but we hope it's sending us more money.
That's a federal or a statewide? A federal announcement.
Appointed by Clinton.
Oh, gosh.
I mean,
okay.
not Clinton. What's his name? Obama.
Obama.
Oh, Clinton. Oh, yeah.
Which president do we have right now?
So that's going to be exciting. And we have 49 workshops going on at the River Center. And so we've made a little video on how to get from Crown Plaza to River Center, and we hope we don't lose anyone in the process.
Absolutely. So that's a great opportunity. So if they go to your website, which again is
selfadvocates.org. Selfadvocacy.org.
Advocacy. Okay.
.org.
Well, we'll put that up on the screen.
Yes.
And let them see it. And is there anything else that's just coming right up that you want to make sure we know about, just briefly?
Well, we have another conference next year, a Minnesota conference, and that's not coming right up.
Okay. There will be a conference in Minnesota, too?
Yes, and it's the Minnesota Self-Advocacy Conference.
Okay.
And so that's probably what we're focusing on.
Okay.
It's been a lot of work on the national conference right now.
Okay. Well, I thank you very much, Kelly and Rick, for coming in and telling us a little bit about your experiences and the work you're doing for advocating change together and the empowerment. That's all we have time for this week. Come join us again on the St. Paul Forum.